Do you want to play with the poker guys?
Yes.
I want to play with the poker guys. I am a poker guy, so
Yes.
I like playing poker, I guess, so that makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, where you can do that is Nitrogen Sports Poker Room, where every month we're having a special Poker Guys tournament. You have to use the link in the description of this video if you want access to that tournament.
Yes.
Okay, keep saying yes.
Yes.
In that tournament, there might be bounties on our heads. There's all sorts of fun stuff Nitrogen's cooking up. And by the way, if you win it, you can get your money pretty much right away because we're talking like 5 to 20 minutes for a withdrawal.
Right. And deposits. Nitrogen moves at the speed of Bitcoin. Get on there, use the link in the description, and get you some poker.
Get the poker. I got a question for you. Does Phil Ivey care about $500,000?
No.
You don't think so?
No way.
Well, we're going to find out in this hand because we're on a $500,000 bubble, and Ike Haxton is going to put the pressure on Phil Ivey. It's the Aussie Millions. It's a $250K buy-in.
Ooh.
This is a big deal pot for everybody at this table, by the way, because it is the bubble.
There's 7 left, and if you look around the table, it is luminary after luminary.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Fabian Quas, Dana Negreanu, Tom Dwan, the aforementioned Ike Haxton and Phil Ivey. Other guys. It's super impressive, and this is a very interesting hand played, I don't know, for huge money.
I mean, definitely for huge money,
Yeah.
and that's probably why Brian suggested it. Brian is always Brian, right?
Always.
On Twitter, you know what to do. Suggest, include a YouTube link. Include a YouTube link. Include a timestamp.
Timestamp.
I'm very serious about this, guys.
He's very intense about it.
I get mad.
He does, and
Yeah.
it's not just about you. It's a little hangry, maybe, too.
I haven't eaten that much today.
We're going to break down this hand as we go, so get ready for some analysis.
7 players left. We are on the bubble of the 250K challenge here at Crown Melbourne. Action on Ike Haxton, who just took a hit from Phil Ivey.
Yeah, he's given up the commanding chip lead that he did have. He's narrowed the gap a fair bit.
95,000.
Ike being very methodical about his amounts, make it 95,000. Folds around to Dwan.
And Ike's open for a little bit larger than what the standard raise has been. Obviously, with the chip stack he's got and with some short stacks there, he's happy to bloat the pots as much as possible.
Well, Tom Dwan looking interested and then quickly changing his mind. It's funny what the bubble will do, and Phil Ivey will make the call. So, round 2.
Let's heads up.
Ike Haxton with ace-10, Phil Ivey with a dominated ace-deuce of spades. And there's a deuce in the door, and wow, what a flop for Phil Ivey. 9-4 deuce, 2 spades.
He's not really dominated anymore after that flop. That's just about the best possible flop you can get for the ace-deuce of spades. And Isaac, the right thing would be to continue with his betting here.
Bet is 160,000.
160,000 over to Phil Ivey.
And he will not be going anywhere. It just depends how out of line he wants to get with this hand here. But given it's on the bubble, I think he might proceed with a little bit of caution.
And you're right, Grant. Caution it is. He makes the call. So we will see a turn card.
Okay, something that needs to be made abundantly clear, and this is the key to this whole hand, is that we are on one of the biggest bubbles in poker history. This is a $500,000 bubble. People might play a little bit different because of that, and I think Phil might play his hand a little differently due to the bubble implications here.
I mean, also Ike Haxton. I mean, while he's going to open this, he may not bet this big on this flop if the bubble is not right now and right here.
He might not even bet at all, by the way.
Yeah.
This might be a check back hand for him on this flop against Phil Ivey a lot of the time, but he knows that Phil is going to be a lot tighter because of that $500K looming. Even the great Phil Ivey cares about $500,000.
Well,
right?
we're gonna find out how much
Yeah.
he cares, I guess, as we go. But the real question for Phil right here, right now, is should he call or should he raise? Because obviously folding is out of the question.
Right. So I think traditionally people are raising this hand a lot. I
Sure.
think that might be incorrect, though. I like a check call because we have showdown value, because we have a pair. I think it's a little different if we have ace-3 of spades, because then we don't actually have that much showdown value. We have a little bit, but not a ton.
I mean, they're pretty close to each other, right? I mean, a pair of deuces. The only difference is we're losing to some of the big ace highs, right?
Yeah.
Which does matter.
It does matter, of course. And the pair of deuces can improve in more ways. You know, we can make trips. We can have an ace hit, which Haxton might have to pay us off on an ace if he has a big ace,
That's true.
like he does.
Yeah.
Right? But Phil decides to call, and do you think that's right?
I think it's fine. I would probably do the same thing, especially on this bubble. But part of the thing you have to think about as Phil is, do we believe Haxton's going to keep barreling or not? Because if we think he's going to just check on all his misses on the turn, it's possible we're supposed to raise now to fold out better hands and also to get value against better hands. Because if he's going to check back aces, if he's going to check back all spades, if he's going to check back the deuce if the deuce trips up, well, that's kind of problematic for this hand a little bit.
Sure, but it is the bubble, which makes it a lot more likely that Haxton's going to try to keep putting the pressure on Phil.
Yes,
There are some other advantages to raising, though. Like, when we get there, it's more easy to get paid if we raise now, because if a spade comes, that might just kill the action.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a problem.
It's sort of a better safe than sorry spot for Phil ultimately. He starts the hand with about 50 blinds. There's no reason to lose your mind here against the chip leader, a guy who could decide just to call you down just because.
Right.
So I think it's perfectly fine to call. I'm sure I would call this most of the time too, especially on a $500,000 bubble.
I mean, of course, and ultimately, if you raise, you can't raise fold a hand this strong, and then you end up in kind of ICM hell against Haxton, and you don't want to be in that spot. So I think calling is probably prudent.
Yeah, I mean, Haxton's getting it in with overpairs, top sets to two pair, things like that. Not much else, right?
It is the 5 of diamonds. That's an interesting card also.
Yeah, well, Phil adds a gut shot to go with his nut flush draw and overcard and his pair. He's got a monster hand here.
The pot a little over $500,000. We are on the bubble. We talk about the tension, the way that changes certain plays at this time. Let's see if it has any effect during this hand.
Yeah, well, Isaac's also picked up a gut shot, so I expect him to continue with the betting here. Phil hasn't shown any real aggression yet, so I don't think Isaac can be too scared about the 5 there. In saying that, Phil's call out of the big blinds, he could literally have any 2 cards knowing Phil Ivey.
Well, Ike bets $500,000, so that's quite a big bet.
Yeah, that's a massive bet, Paul. It shows Phil that Ike's not mucking around here. What it also does, given that we're on the bubble, it really puts the pressure on Phil. If he calls here, the pot's 1.5 mil. Phil's got less than that behind. So he's going to be faced with a huge river bet, possibly an all-in. And that's got to be going through Phil's mind here. At the same time, he's got such a monster hand, it's going to be hard to let it go.
Well, the last hand, Phil Ivey doubled up through Ike Haxton. He won't want to see the chips go the other way. But it'd be hard for Phil to fold this hand.
Well, he's got so much equity, Paul. In saying that if the 3 comes and there's a 4 card straight on, it's hard to get value. So he's just hoping to hit a spade here if he continues with the hand.
Phil Ivey doesn't give much away. Hard to tell what he's thinking. Look at this. Oh, Phil Ivey, now that is a tight fold.
Yeah, that's really nitty from Phil. And it's excellent pressure from Ike.
Okay, no one was expecting that, right?
No.
I was not expecting that. Were you expecting that?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I was not.
Okay, is it possible, this is the question, is it possible this was a mistake, even by the great Phil Ivey? Is it possible?
I'm going to say yes, Jonathan. It is possible that it's a mistake, but we need to explore whether or not that's the case.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to talk about Haxton and his continuation here, first of all, just categorically continuing here, because most players, when called on this flop, and this card that shouldn't change much very often, are going to check back against the big blind's range. But Haxton knows it's a 500K bubble. He's probably not betting this in almost any other scenario.
I mean, I would expect him to check a lot on a lot of turns. And if he's going to bet, I wouldn't expect him to bet this much, you know, but because it's this bubble, he feels he can get away with it a little bit more and push Phil Ivey. By betting this big, he's supposed to be basically folding out pretty much all 1 pair hands, pretty much all draws. The combo draws are the one thing, combo draws and of course 2 pair plus are things we'd expect not to fold here. But guess what? Haxton even folds out the big combo draw ultimately,
I mean, it's kind of crazy that it works, and it's probably due to his sizing. And Haxton definitely calculated this well. I think if Haxton bets 300K, Ivey can't find a fold here.
Absolutely.
Here's the real question, though. Should Ivey be finding a fold for $500,000?
Right.
Should he? I don't think he should.
I don't either. And you know what? He's way better, obviously, than we are, and knows a lot more. He's forgotten more about poker eating like Fruit Loops than we've learned about poker in our lives.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Having said that, Phil's getting pretty much the right odds to call right now. And if he can just squeeze a little bit of value out of Haxton on the river when he gets there, I think it's fine to call.
We don't even need to squeeze value. It's a big pot.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is the key in my mind. Ivey has 1.8 million here. He'll have 1.3 million remaining if he calls and then decides to fold the river if he doesn't improve, which is a scenario that could happen pretty frequently. But 1.3 million is over 30 blinds. It's not like you're in the danger zone.
Right.
You're not in bubble trouble with
If
over
you
30
will.
blinds. So I think we have to call, reevaluate the river, probably get exploited a lot by Ike if we miss, but that's okay because we have such a good hand. It's kind of crazy to fold when we have this much behind still.
I think the plan would have to be, as Phil ultimately, is call this turn and check all rivers, hoping that if we make the nuts or trip deuces or maybe even an ace, which gets a little bit titchy, honestly, that Ike's just going to keep pushing really, really hard, and we're going to find a call with a very, very strong part of our range.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good plan, but as we see, a bubble this size can affect even the great Phil Ivey.
If indeed that's what happened.
I think it did.
Me too.
It had to be, right?
Probably. I mean, he's calling a not the bubble. So we think ultimately that the great Phil Ivey may have made a mistake there by folding the turn. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. We may just respond to them at some point.
possible.
If we do, there'll be a link right here. If not, read the comments.
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah, just keep commenting. It's
You're
good.
fine.
We like it. Anyway, that was the Aussie Millions. The Aussie Millions is doing cool stuff like having 250K buy-ins. They
Yeah.
have a great main event. We've done a lot of Aussie Millions hands, and a lot of those are really cool.
Really?
I mean, the recent years, Aussie Millions have had some of the greatest hands that we've done. And
Yeah,
it's been great. If you want
absolutely.
to check all of those out, click right up there.
You may be wondering, how do the poker guys come to these ideas anyway? What do those guys think? And how do they think them? Well, we do a podcast, and we spend 40 minutes talking just about this one hand, breaking down all the different decisions and possible decisions.
It's only 2 streets,
on
40
the
minutes.
tree. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So we got really deep into it, and that's how we came to these ideas. You may agree, you may disagree, but if you want to hear how we got there, check out our podcast. It's called The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys. It's on all your favorite podcast apps, of course.
Of course.
And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.